resistance.
All right, my guest now is Dr. Steve PIECZENIK, stevepiecenik.com. Follow him on Twitter at Steve PIECZENIK, expert on foreign regime changes and foreign entanglements and the psychological wars that really tip these things off. I think that that's kind of maybe mainly to blame for what's happening in the Gaza Strip right now. But I don't know. I want to get Dr. PIECZENIK's take on this. First, Steve, let's just get kind of a basic breakdown about why you think there's so much unrest, or what you think is behind all this unrest in the Gaza Strip because of the embassy being moved to Jerusalem or the capital being declared Jerusalem. Why does that send so many people into unrest?
Because Jerusalem has never been recognized as the official capital of Israel. Basically, the state of Israel has said that in order to be unified, for us to be recognized internationally, we have to have our capital in Jerusalem. And the world said, wait a minute, you know, that is the headquarters of Muslims, Christians, and Jews, but that can't be your capital. But there's a bigger issue than the movement of our embassy to Jerusalem, and that's what's not being talked about. The Israelis, in their inevitable wisdom or witness?
What are you saying?
In their inevitable intelligence, in 1988-89, when I was there in the Gaza Strip, I was working there, and I was told about a new group that was being created by the Israeli Mossad, which was called Hamas. So ironically, the group that the Israelis have created and are still in contact with, Hamas, is creating this dissension within the Palestinians. At the same time, you have Abbas, who's the head of PLO, who broke with Hamas. He's leaving and he's exiting, and they need a new leader for the PLO. So in effect, what you're seeing here is an opportune time for both the Israelis to move their embassy, but more importantly, to create strategic tension in that area in order to cover up what Bibi has, a personal problem in terms of corruption, in terms of the inevitability of being jailed and all of that. So he's creating a domestic problem. He's creating an international product with the Palestinians, a process, and also with the Iranians. Bibi has been a troublemaker for quite a while. And as General Sharon has said about Bibi years ago, Sharon, these are not my words, but I do agree with Sharon, who's one of the great generals of Israel, said Bibi was basically a coward. Not only was he a coward, he was reckless and self-aggrandizing. That was supported by the rest of the national security apparatus of Israel, including the Mossad, when they had a very famous general named Dagan, and another general of the combat units called Ashkenazi, who all agreed that Bibi was a troublemaker, but basically a coward who would get Israel into trouble with Iran. And internally, what you don't see is the fact that Bibi is now in the self-aggrandizing mode. Trump has helped him. The one that you had to pay $2 million to get to Harvard. And at the same time, Bibi is allowing himself to self-aggrandize, while in fact the Iranians and the Syrians are preparing for an inevitable war with Israel. And at the same time, he's created dissension on the West Bank in Gaza. This is typical of Bibi. This is not typical of the national security apparatus of Israel, including the Shin Bet and the Mossad, who do not agree with Bibi. Plus, he has a vice president, Lieberman, from Moldavia, who has absolutely no idea about combat or strategy or tactics. So Israel is in a very dangerous position. And it's the parents of the Israeli Defense Force who understand that there are 30,000 men who are on active duty now. The reserves will be called up, and there will be all kinds of quiet movement. They realize that Hezbollah is no longer just a small unit as it was in 2006. Where Hezbollah, less than 5,000 people defeated an Israeli army of 30,000, and the Jerusalem Post called it a disaster for Bibi. And the generals called it a disaster for Bibi. So once again, we're entering a period where Bibi is going to sacrifice the lives of Israeli Defense Force, to create a tension point so that he can continue on as prime minister, when in fact they should rid them of this
Yeah.
noise.
Okay. Now I want to let's pause it right there. You know, Bibi, he's been in power for 25 years. It's probably
Correct.
too long. He's got his fingerprints all over this tension in that region. There's no doubt about that. But let me just take one story and let's apply that to everything you've talked about. So you've got the IDF, which now claims they've stopped, I think, 5 terror attacks in the Gaza Strip, which they were saying, I can't remember, it was either Hamas or some terrorist organization. You know, they'll blame Iran or whoever it is, and they're saying, IDF is saying, we stopped 5 terrorist attacks in this area. At the same time, you've got Israeli snipers, you've got Israeli drones, you know, dropping tear gas, hitting people that are, you know, protesting in that region. So you've kind of got everything, the tension kind of focused in that region. Israel saying, hey, we're defending ourselves, we're stopping terrorists. You know, the people protesting say, hey, we have a right to protest here. Quit shooting us, quit dropping tear gas on us. I mean, where is any trying to sort through all the madness? How do you make sense of all of this? Do you think Israel makes it up that they're stopping terrorist attacks? I mean, what is going on here?
Israel, what I'm trying to say very simply is that Bibi created a strategic tension point on both sides, on Gaza, Hamas, and allowed Hamas to increase the dissension within the Palestinians on the West Bank. And Bibi is basically looking for trouble so that he can invoke the United States in terms of not only the strategic issue, but in terms of military assistance. Bibi has always wanted to attack Iran directly. For the first time, what you mentioned last week, when you saw that video, that was the first strike that the IDF airplanes have had ever against Iran directly, not against the surrogate, but against Iran. So Bibi's pushing very hard to get the United States involved in a war that we do not want to get involved with. In fact, Secretary of Defense Mattis does not want to get into a war. This is very simply Bibi's attempt to create turbulence so that he can say, look, it wasn't my problem. I had this problem in 2006 with the Lebanon war, but I lost it.
But what's the solution? But Dr. PIECZENIK, what is the solution if you have all of these people going to the Gaza Strip and not in Israel? You're not an Israeli citizen. I mean, what are they going to do?
They can take out Bibi if they want to. He has already. He's culpable. He is a criminal. Right now, the Israeli judiciary can take him, arrest him, take him out, take care of Lieberman.
Okay, but I'm saying, but that's not going to happen, though. That's not going to happen. So
it may happen. It may happen because the Mossad and the Shin Bet, both the exterior and the internal, do not agree with Bibi. Remember, there's things that had happened to Rabin and others where they didn't want to go along with the prime minister. When you have 17...
Okay, so it sounds to me, so let me just boil this down, because I want to get into something else on the other side here. It sounds to me, and this could make sense, that if Bibi would step down and let someone else handle the issues in the Gaza Strip, that you could maybe actually reach a conclusion here.
Correct. That's exactly what I'm trying to say.
You do believe that there's people internally in Israel that may want to...
easily. Oh, yeah. There are many who are within the Mossad, within the Department of State in Israel, within even the within the right of the Likud party, who would be more than willing to have peace with the Palestinians. Remember what I just said. Hamas was created by Israel. It's not an entity that works by itself. It is an entity that serves Israel as well. Israel has created strategic tension throughout her whole life in order to make certain that
Netanyahu needs to just say, hey, look, congratulate me. I got the embassy in Jerusalem. I called it the capital. I'm out. But it looks like he's not going to do that, maybe to protect his own hide, maybe because he's that power hungry. I'm not sure what it is. We'll get into more of that, and then we're going to jump to the quote-unquote Iran deal, the deal that never was, with Steve PIECZENIK on the other side. Don't go anywhere. Netanyahu has caused more tensions in the Middle East and in the Gaza Strip and in that region than he's done to help those tensions or ease those tensions. So that's one angle that's kind of still developing that we'll continue to monitor. But Steve PIECZENIK is my guest here. Dr. PIECZENIK, I actually want to move into a new topic of discussion here, which is the Iran deal. And this just continues to bother me. And I've been trying to figure this out. And then over the weekend, so basically I have basically two talking points that I want to get into with you. One, what do you think this is about Iran essentially threatening to name politicians who took bribes or who were involved in whatever it is with this Iran deal? That's essentially blackmail, either the politicians, the deep state, or Trump. I'm not really sure. Essentially some threat to hang out there. What the goal is, I'm not really sure either. Maybe to get the Iran deal back. I'm not really sure. Blackmail the deep state to take out Trump, whatever it is. So you've got that angle of things, which I want to get your take on. But first, Steve, where is the Iran deal? Have you ever seen the Iran deal? Have you ever seen the actual documents? Have you ever seen anybody that signed it? Have you ever seen a signature from the Iranians, from Obama? I've looked into this. I don't think there ever was a deal. The last thing I could find was from the State Department, November 2015, that says it's an executive policy. An executive policy. No deal, no treaty, no signatures, no Congress, nothing. I mean, am I reading this wrong? What is your take on this quote-unquote Iran deal, which I don't even think ever existed?
Well, let me put it this way. Whether there's a piece of paper or not is not as to Iran. He may have given a lot, but here's the issue. The issue is not about nuclear weapons. It never has been. One of the reasons why I went into Iran years ago was to see how desperate they really were and how effective the embargoes were. They were incredibly effective. What Iran needed was cash and currency and business. What we needed was to go back into Iran, particularly Boeing, particularly Halliburton. Many of our companies needed to come back into Iran to build up the economy and also to have business. The business of foreign policy is business. It is not nation state building. Having said that, in 2006, when we got caught in Iraq, thanks to the neocons like John Bolton and others, we had to get out of there. And the only country that could help us, because we broke up Iraq, was Iran. Ironically, Soleimani, the head of the Iranian Revolutionary Force, had killed our people, but at the same time had helped our military to get out of Afghanistan and Iraq. Now, ironically, as much as we are complaining about the Iran deal, and Trump is saying all these things about the Iran deal, what he's really doing is creating a position in the negotiation. But more importantly, what's going on is that General Funk of the army, our army, has been working with Soleimani's deputy, Qassam al-Ajari, who is a Revolutionary Guard, a Shiite, whom we have twice imprisoned for IED imports into Iraq for having killed hundreds of our soldiers. And now we're working with the very people who've killed our soldiers when they came into Iraq. What do you think about that one, Owen? That's what it's all about.
That doesn't surprise me. We've been so entangled with all sides of the issues out there. Sometimes we're fighting with them. Sometimes we're fighting against them. Sometimes we're training them to later fight us. That's why I'm so glad that we were talking about this, because you help get a little clarity to me. So it sounds to me that regardless of what you think about Iranians' leadership, regardless of what you think about, Iranians' regime, okay, that's one thing. They're oppressive, they're corrupt, whatever. Put that aside. It sounds to me like Iran just says, look, we want a seat at the table. We want a piece of the picture. We want to be involved in the world order. So give us the ability to produce. Give us the ability to have manufacturing. China and Russia have done that. Why won't the United States why won't the United States do that? And then here comes Israel. So Iran says, give us a seat at the table. Okay, whatever, you're corrupt. We'll use that to not allow you to sit here, says Israel. But Iran just wants a seat at the table. And then here comes Israel, says, nope. No. Iran does not get a seat at the table. Iran, bad guy. No Iran. So then the U.S. jumps on top of that now under the Trump administration, being allied strongly with Israel. And so that just ticks off Iran more. A, does that sound like a correct boil down? And then B, what do you make of the Iranians saying we're going to release names of Western politicians who were being bribed or who had their hands in this deal?
Well, I'm not impressed with it. Unfortunately, I know one of the journalists at the Wall Street Journal who was highly compromised by Iran, and he wrote about it, but I don't want to go into that particular thing. You've got to understand again, In the art of the deal, what Trump is doing, he's creating a lot of tension. He's creating a lot of confusion. He didn't say, I'm leaving the Iran deal. He said, I cannot accept the Iran deal as it is now, and I'm going to impose an embargo. But the window is open for 90 days or more. And this is the way he played with China, and China's acquiescent. This is the way he played with North Korea. North Korea's acquiescent. And I predict this is the way Iran will acquiesce. And what Iran wants more than anything else in American products coming in. If they don't buy our Boeing, they will buy Airbus from Toulouse, France. And the French are more than happy to ship in anything that we don't ship in. This is about commerce. The Israelis also don't admit that they've been sneaking in oil supplies into Iran when they need it. And when they work with the Iranians, you don't hear about it. Furthermore, for most of us Jews, we pray to the fact that Cyrus the Great had freed the Jews from Babylonia. So the essence of Judaism in its prayers is a thankfulness to the Persian people. Now think about that one. And Soleimani is also Jewish. So the whole thing is compounded by all types of minute details. But the real focal point is the fact that Trump is brilliant at negotiating and pushing Iran to the corner, while at the same time saying, guys, I'm open to the deal, but this deal isn't good enough for all the money you receive. And by the way, I'll be working with Soleimani to protect you guys in Iraq, where we made a mistake, but I still want more. That's what he's doing. Israel can be the fly in the ointment, but Israel will be in trouble because of Bibi, not so much because of Trump.
I think that maybe we're looking at a situation, too, where so you've got Netanyahu that's been here for a quarter of a century, and then you have a new president every 8 years in the United States. So what? There's been 4 presidents, I guess, during Netanyahu's regime. Right. So Clinton, Bush, Obama, Trump. And so every new president kind of has their own set of, I guess, goals or whatever you want to say in the Gaza Strip, between Iran, between Israel. So then that changes, and Netanyahu has kind of had his same strategy over here that he's kind of had to manipulate and change depending on the president of the United States. So then here we are 25 years later, and the whole thing is just a total catastrophe, a total disaster, because in the meantime, there's always been someone else behind the scenes with their own self-interest at hand. And so it's kind of just a total catastrophe where in the last segment or 2 segments ago, I'm saying it looks like maybe, and I want to get your take on this, did Trump have the Jerusalem embassy launched the same week, essentially, that he Trump to kind of just blow the whole thing up and just kind of a scorched earth thing so that he can come in here with his own strategy to try to get something done?
I think you hit it on the head. He didn't do a scorched earth. What he did was at the same time to say to Iran, look, I'm pulling out of the deal. At the same time, he allowed Bibi to manipulate Trump. Bibi thinks he's manipulating Trump. It's the other way around. Trump is allowing Bibi to be manipulated, having him manipulated, while at the same time Trump is getting out of the Iran deal. He's going to watch what happens, what falls out. If Bibi goes into war, Trump will not get into war with him. We have special units already on the border of Saudi Arabia. Mattis does not want war. Trump does not want war. He said it very clearly. We've paid $7.6 trillion in the Middle East. We're not coming back. So he's allowing Bibi to make his own mistakes, and Bibi will do that because internally the only ones who can control Bibi is the Mossad and the Shin Bet. That's up to them. It's been 30 years of their problems. They don't want to do it. That's their problem. Externally, we're not controlling Bibi because he runs to Putin. I told you all the time, he's like a little baby. And that's what Sharon called him, a coward and a little baby.
So Bibi, final 30 seconds. Bibi's going to be the one that gets exposed here. And it's going to be his own. It's going to be his own hard-headedness, where even Kim Jong-un and the Ayatollah will end up making deals with Trump. Netanyahu's going to fall based on his own stubbornness.
Correct. That's exactly what I predict. You hit it right.
And that's key too, Steve. For you to, I mean, I don't disagree with you. If Israel doesn't realize that Trump's not going to back them in a larger war against Iran, Netanyahu will fall on his own petard. That's it. That's it. Steve PIECZENIK, great having you as always. We'll be right back.
If you are receiving this transmission, you are the resistance.